alienation. It really takes a depraved mind to do this to a kid. For their own evil agenda and control, they are effectively destroying their own child. It's not just some other random person. It's their own child that they should be dedicated to helping. But these narcissistic parents just can't do it. It's all about them and their agenda, and be damned if anyone gets in their way. Good evening, folks. KJ here. We are going to go into the Angelia Solomon case in terms of background. I think that we felt like we had gotten our fill of toxic parental situations in past cases, but this one really is about it's far beyond the mess of a divorce. And in order for us to continue to move forward, which, by the way, there was reported that it was going to be a hearing on November 7th. It never happened. There was no updates on the case from Friday. So my mind is like, well, are the attorneys, are they getting together for plea negotiations? Is there some kind of issue going on where they didn't have that hearing? There was at least 3 news organizations saying that there would be a hearing with Angelia Solomon on November 7th. So my apologies that it did not happen, but we will move forward to get a little justice through understanding. I have posted on the community wall a webinar from Alienated Children First, which is a channel, so that if anyone's interested in getting a grasp of a professional's view on all of that, it is on the community wall, along with Aaron Solomon, who was a former WSMV TV sports anchor, who went from there to Merrill Lynch, and he was a guest of the Good Grief, Good God show, which is also posted on the community wall. Also, I posted the preliminary hearing, and I hope that anyone that's interested in this case will absolutely go there and watch that preliminary hearing, which doesn't hold all the evidence, but that recording we will go over this weekend, and you can hear it on that preliminary hearing. Also, we tackled the probable cause affidavit, which was very short and sweet, but the last live stream I tried to bring that out to get us prepared to move forward, whether this goes to trial or not, because we are going to learn something from these criminal cases here in the crime genre community. This gives us a chance, y'all, for background information of what led up to all of this, y'all. Also, Angelia and Aaron's Solomon's daughter came out online back in 2021 to say that her father had SA'd her. I posted in the comments here that there is going to be some adult content that's going to be said. But if it's reported through a news organization, a reputable one on a local level here in Tennessee, OKJ's going to share that with all of you. Okay, we are adults here. And I'll do my best to, use other terms or whatever, but we've got to get the full meal deal on it so that we know the background, y'all. The background of why Angelia Solomon is charged with conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, trying to hire a TBI undercover agent to murder her ex-husband, Aaron Solomon. Now, I want to be clear about something. Because you know what, y'all? When we look at these criminal cases, things jump out at us. Maybe the same things, maybe different things. But this is very important to OKJ, and I hope that you will allow me to demonstrate my mindset on all of this. When Gracie, which is the daughter, came out online, she came out in May of 2021, specifically May 12th of 2021, and 9 days later, Aaron Solomon filed a lawsuit, and we'll go over that. This is about as messy of shit you're ever going to hear. But there's a bigger picture in all of this. And I pray and I hope that the Rays and others will give me the opportunity to show what I've learned and what you can teach me. Let's get started. Let's just go into it. Background, y'all. This is going to absolutely blow your mind, okay? June 8th. You've got to keep this in mind, y'all. June 8th of 2021, former WSMV Channel 4 News anchor Merrill Lynch financial advisor and Franklin resident Aaron Solomon is currently at the center of a bevy of accusations, including child abuse and being involved in the death of his 18-year-old son. Now, just let's keep in mind, this was back 4 years ago, over 4 years ago. But this is what was coming out, and it lays it out succinctly in terms of the background, okay? While civil matters related to the accusations are currently being litigated in Williamson County Circuit Court, Aaron Solomon is not facing any criminal charges and has denied all allegations. And we're going to get up to date on everything that has happened, down to an appeals court telling the whole background of how we got here. A morning news anchor for WSMV Channel 4 News since 1996, Aaron Solomon willingly resigned from that role in 2011, according to fellow news anchor Holly Thompson. In 2014, he became a financial advisor for the investment management group Merrill Lynch, where he still works. Aaron Solomon has also served as a volunteer board member from 2006 to at least 2019 for Our Kids Center, a Nashville-based nonprofit organization that provides expert medical evaluations and crisis counseling for victims of child sexual abuse. Aaron Solomon had 2 children with his ex-wife, Angelia Solomon, Grant Solomon in 2002 and Gracie Solomon in 2006. Before the 2 divorced in 2014, Grant Solomon would later die in July of 2020, roughly 1 month after his 18th birthday, in what Gallatin police reported to be a single vehicle accident. While Angelia Solomon has levied accusations of abuse against Aaron Solomon in court since at least 2013, y'all. Think about that. It wouldn't be until May of this year, which is of 2021, that the accusations were brought into the public eye. On May 12th, a YouTube channel named Freedom for Gracie launched, as did an identically named Instagram account. And you can find that on YouTube, y'all. It is Gracie's story, A Cry for Help. You can type it into the search engine. You look and see what you think. The same day, both pages uploaded 2 videos. One, a video testimony from Gracie, Aaron Solomon's now 14-year-old daughter, and the other, a video testimony from Anna Smith, a former student and fellow classmate of Grant's at Grace Christian Academy in Franklin. In her video testimony, Gracie made a number of allegations against her father, Aaron Solomon, calling him a rapist, a molester, a liar, and a killer. and recounted a number of specific incidents in which she believed her father had sexually abused her. Regarding Grant, Gracie said that he was scared of their father due to his terrifying behavior and that she strongly believed that Aaron Solomon killed Grant. According to Gracie, Grant had also opened up to Grace Chapel Church pastor Steve Berger about the allegations of abuse in 2018. Grant's alleged turbulent relationship with his father was echoed in Smith's video testimony, in which the now 18-year-old recounted numerous times in which Grant had told her of her father's alleged abuse. Smith said she had tried to testify against Aaron Solomon on behalf of Gracie and Grant during continued Child Protective Service hearings, only to be denied by the presiding judge on 2 separate occasions. Smith also said she had told a counselor at Grace Christian Academy about Aaron Solomon's alleged abuse, as had Gracie, but to no avail. Smith further suggested that it was Grant's entry into adulthood, which with it came a more respected voice in the judicial system, that potentially led to his death just a month after turning 18. On July 20th of 2020, Grant was killed after being struck by his own vehicle in a parking lot of Ward Performance Institute, a baseball training club in Gallatin. Aaron Solomon was the only witness. Ultimately, the joint video testimonies argue that the Williamson County courts, as well as Grace Christian Academy, had failed to take the allegations made by Angelia Solomon, Gracie, and their friends seriously. As of June 8th of 2021, the 2 videos have been viewed collectively over 40,000 times. On May 21st of this year, Aaron Solomon filed a lawsuit against Smith, his ex-wife, and 28 others alleged to have taken part in making the accusations against him online. In the lawsuit, Aaron Solomon alleges that his ex-wife, along with her friends and associates, brought a smear campaign against Mr. Solomon through social media, and that the allegations were made recklessly. And really, y'all, recklessly. A 14-year-old girl comes on YouTube and Instagram to tell her story about SA, and her mother is right there. Who would do that? How would a mother allow a daughter to do that? Whether it's true or not. If it was really true, why do that, right? Why allow that 14-year-old onto a social media platform to talk about this stuff? The lawsuit requests that the Williamson County Circuit Court impose what is known as a temporary injunction, a court order. This is Aaron Solomon's petition here, that allows for a judge to prohibit certain actions by certain parties early on in the litigation process. The first action Aaron Solomon sought to be halted by the court was the sharing of any more statements that implied Aaron Solomon had physically or sexually abused his ex-wife or children, or that he caused Grant Solomon's death. The lawsuit also requests of the court that the defendants be required to remove all their allegations from the internet, and that the image of Gracie not be used to sell products or solicit donations without Aaron Solomon's consent. And by goodness, Angelia Solomon used her daughter to make some damn money, whether anybody wants to accept that or not. It is a fact. And you just put that into perspective. Who gets their 14-year-old daughter on a social media platform and makes money off that shit? Give me a break. On Friday, June 4th of 2021, attorney Alex Little filed a response to Aaron Solomon. Solomon's lawsuit on behalf of Angelia Solomon and the 29 others, requesting the Williamson County Circuit Court to dismiss the aforementioned lawsuit. The response litigation argues that Gracie's video testimony is a clear exercise of her First Amendment rights and that Aaron Solomon's lawsuit constitutes a strategic lawsuit against public participation, also known as the SLAPP suit or intimidation lawsuit. Now let's just stop there. Gracie, 14-year-old Gracie has a right to speak, First Amendment, right? Her mother, she is a minor, her mother, okay, allowed her to do all this. Think about that, y'all. Let's use a little common sense here. Because we are going to get to Angelia Solomon's reasoning on the wiretap of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation's undercover guy of why she wants him dead and how she veers off into any direction after initially stating, oh, he's such an evil, terrible molester, pedophile, blah, 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 blah. The litigation further notes that Tennessee has passed an anti-SLAPP suit bill in 2019, which allows for parties to petition for the dismissal of lawsuits that are filed in response to a party's exercise of the right of free speech. Aaron Solomon's lawsuit is now scheduled to be heard by Judge James Martin on Tuesday, June 22nd, 2021 in Franklin, and we'll get to all of that here. But let's get to the timeline of abuse accusations and the custody disputes. While the story of Angelia and Aaron Solomon goes back decades, perhaps the first notable event that kicked off the year's worth of allegations was something that occurred on May 9th of 2013 when they both lived in Nashville. On that night, Angelia Solomon alleged that Aaron Solomon had tried to hang her with a blow dryer cord in the bathroom of their home. Angelia Solomon further alleged that her husband, quote, hit her on the right side of her head and knocked her onto the bed in plain view of her parents. Her father, according to Angelia Solomon, said that, quote, a husband can do to his wife what he wants, unquote. And just put this in perspective, y'all. Angelia Solomon's parents are taking Aaron Solomon's side over their own daughter. Okay, so this is her attacking her own parents. And think about that. Just think about that. Think about when she says that, when she says a husband can do to his wife what he wants, perhaps her parents were old-fashioned and maybe, she got some kind of whatever out of her upbringing. I'm not saying there's nothing there. All I'm saying is this comes out of the blue. Aaron Solomon instead alleges that Angelia Solomon attempted to hang herself with a blow dryer cord. Aaron Solomon said he called 911 following the incident, after which he says his wife was admitted to the TriStar Centennial Psychiatric Hospital. Admitted in the early hours of May 10th of 2013, Angelia Solomon was released the next day. Her discharge summary, written by Dr. Michael James Murphy, reads as follows. Because of the confusing nature of the findings, we decided to commit her to the hospital for a night so that we could evaluate the situation and determine her level of safety. I evaluated her extensively the next day. It was my impression that the patient was telling the truth about the situation, that she was in a risky situation with her husband, who appeared to possibly be volatile and violent, although this was uncertain. The patient's parents also appeared to be unreliable sources of information. Let's just stop there. This doctor wants to say he thought she was telling the truth, but it's uncertain, and now he doesn't want to rely on her parents who are taking Aaron Solomon's side. He wants to say they're unreliable. The patient was not started on any medications, as it did not appear that she was in any kind of depressed state or in need of any acute psychiatric treatment. And you and I both know that when Lori Hooker Daybell was evaluated and got with flying colors, that, my friends, tells you everything you need to know. The same day after being released from the hospital, Angelia Solomon filed for and was granted a temporary order of protection against her husband, which was delivered to Aaron Solomon on the morning of May 12th of 2013. The next day, on May 13th, Aaron Solomon filed for divorce in Davidson County Circuit Court. On May 14th, Aaron Solomon filed for and was granted a temporary restraining order against his wife, with the presiding judge, Judge Philip Smith, also prohibiting Angelia Solomon from being in possession of their children. On June 7th of 2013, Aaron Solomon sought a continuance of that restraining order, a request that was ultimately granted by Judge Smith on July 13th. In the ruling, Smith found that the court did not believe Ms. Solomon's testimony and that the court does believe that Mrs. Solomon attempted to commit suicide. And does the court have any credibility at all, y'all? Can the court, in an unbiased way, make such a decision? Yes, because they are not emotionally in any of this. They see the evidence or they see what's going on and they make a ruling, and they ruled this, that she absolutely tried to do this, and that is why she shouldn't have the children. Regarding the two children, Judge Smith further found that the court is, quote, quite concerned about the safety of the minor children, even in a supervised setting with the mother, unquote. The ruling prohibited Angelia Solomon from receiving any parenting time with her children until she submitted to a psychological evaluation. On October 7th, Dr. Bradley Freeman released his full psychiatric report on Angelia Solomon. Quote, after reviewing the information collected, there is ample evidence to suggest that Dr. Solomon, and let's just be clear, when they say Dr. Solomon, she was a pharmacist, okay, is a fully capable parent, unquote. There is no data to indicate that Dr. Solomon is at risk of harming her children. The collateral sources, her self-report and the report of her husband, contains no information that suggests she might be abusive, neglectful, or harmful to the children. Soon after, Angelia Solomon was granted 2 hours of supervised visitation a week. Court proceedings would continue throughout the duration of 2013 and into early 2014, with a social worker and 2 medical experts testifying as to Angelia Solomon's mental state during a hearing on May 30th of 2014. Social worker and Centennial Medical Center employee Mary Duff, who had also been supervising Angelia Solomon's visit with Gracie and Grant, testifies that she had, quote, not observed any specific problems that would raise concern with Ms. Solomon's ability to care for her children. Duff also said she believed Angelia Solomon's visitation time could be extended to at least 4 hours once a week. Dr. Michael Reed, a physician who specializes in psychiatry, who had been treating Angelia Solomon, testified that her prognosis is excellent. Regarding Aaron Solomon, Reed further testified that he had done a masterful job in confusing the court about his wife's actual mental health. Now, let's just stop there. We're talking about this guy, this physician. How in the world would he go into the realm of making it personal? Think about that. A masterful job. How does this doctor know that Aaron Solomon did a masterful job about his wife's actual mental health? It wasn't just Aaron. It was everything else. Reed also noted that multiple comments made by both children had led him to believe that they had suffered severe emotional repercussions and that they were fearful for Mr. Solomon and remained so still. And again, y'all, you can say whatever you want to say. You can say it, but does not make it so. Ruth Smith, a licensed clinical psychologist who had treated Angelia Solomon since March of 2014, testified that she diagnosed Angelia Solomon with PTSD caused by the abusive marriage she had been in since 2001. And OKJ has PTSD, and I have a heart for that. I don't know how abusive this whole situation was. Maybe it was. Maybe Aaron and Angelia Solomon had a toxic ass relationship. But it does not mean that it's all one-sided and that Aaron Solomon is the only bad guy in any of this shit. Nevertheless, Judge Smith ruled that the children would be placed in the custody of Aaron Solomon on June 30th of 2014. You just stop there. A judge took everything I just said to y'all into consideration and still put the children with Aaron Solomon. Though they did extend Angelia Solomon's visitation time to 6 hours once a week to be supervised for 1 hour by Duff. So in the 6 hours that Angelia Solomon had the kids, 1 hour of that would be supervised and 5 hours would not be. And I wonder in the 5 hours that Angelia Solomon was not being supervised, what she was telling to her dang children, one way or the other. While continuing to pursue greater custody of her children, Angelia Solomon also levied a series of allegations against Aaron Solomon that he was abusing their 2 children. On November 21st of 2014, Angelia Solomon filed a petition in Coffee County Juvenile Court to declare her children neglected and to request temporary emergency custody. Now, I live in Coffee County, okay? So that tells you right there that this is close to home for OKJ. In the petition, Angelia Solomon alleges that her daughter Gracie, then 8 years old, told her that Aaron Solomon, y'all, this is adult content, but it's in the news. Okay, this isn't no smutty news publication. This is Williamson County right here. So it's going to be said, and if you got a problem with talking about these issues, I tell you right now, you need to leave, because I don't want to disturb you or make you feel bad or anything else, but this is going to be talked about. In the petition, Angelia Solomon alleges that her daughter Gracie, then 8 years old, told her that Aaron Solomon would penetrate her with a bar of soap while bathing her, that he would require Gracie to sleep in his bed against her wishes, and that Aaron Solomon would insist on accompanying Gracie to the bathroom, wiping her and giving her a bath. In the petition, Angelia Solomon also recounts on October 27th, visit to family practice physician Jay Tressler's office in Manchester. During the visit, Angelia Solomon alleges that Tressler found excessive ketones in Grant's urine sample, a sign that he suffers from malnutrition and is not receiving enough food on a daily basis. Angelia Solomon also alleged that Tressler found Grant to show early signs of muscle atrophy. I guess that's how you say it. Let's just be clear. By the time Grant had passed away during that accident, he was a very healthy baseball player. He could have went on to college, could have even went on to the minor leagues, maybe the major leagues. So this all has not aged well at all. Again, y'all, this is back in, let's see, June of 2021 that this is finally being reported on. Angelia Solomon, however, would voluntarily withdraw this petition. The petition that I just told y'all about. The one that just sounded so awful, didn't it? She voluntarily just, oh well, she withdrew it. Oh, she's so wanting to protect her children, but she's going to withdraw it. Give me a break. For the next 4 years, Aaron Solomon retained custody of the children until the proceedings moved to Williamson County Circuit Court and Williamson County Juvenile Court. It was during these proceedings that Angelia Solomon, who had filed numerous civil actions against Aaron Solomon over the years with both the court systems and with Child Protective Services, was handed her harshest penalty yet. Williamson County Circuit Court Judge Deanna Johnson, wife of Tennessee Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson, found Angelia Solomon's continued claims to be without merit and ruled on January 19th of 2019 that Angelia Solomon could not file any future civil actions against her ex-husband for a period of 6 years. And one would say, damn, that ain't right. That ain't right at all. That ain't right. That's not fair. People should be able to file what they want to file. But folks, let me just be clear. Let me be just as clear as I can be. There is a law on the books and in most states that when these people do this, when they continue to file this stuff, there's no evidence for it, they put a stop to it. If it's stuff that's already been decided, there was no evidence for it, they're not going, unless some new evidence shows up. And so that's what happened. Johnson made her ruling in part on the precedent set by previous case rulings, y'all, as well as the multiple Child Protective Services investigations, all of which concluded that Angelia Solomon's claims were unfounded. According to Aaron Solomon's lawsuit, Angelia Solomon and others have alleged Aaron Solomon controlled the courts and that Judge Johnson demonstrated bias toward Aaron Solomon in her ruling, given that they both attend Grace Chapel Church. Now, let's just stop there. Y'all remember back in the Daybell case, there was I told everyone, I'm like, do you think that there are not all these judicial outside groups that keep an eye on this shit? These people have checks and balances when it comes to their decisions in judicial matters. According to the Freedom for Gracie Instagram page, as of May 29th, Gracie was placed in Child Protective Services custody, but is now under the care of a family friend of the Solomons, and that was back in 2021. Now, the aforementioned countersuit filed Friday, June 4th of 2021 on behalf of Angelia Solomon includes affidavits of multiple of Aaron Solomon's accusers. Gracie says as follows. This is Gracie's affidavit, y'all. Gracie alleged her father was the only person to bathe her, and that between the age of 6 and 8, she believed he penetrated her with his fingers routinely, thinking at a younger age that it was with a bar of soap. Gracie also said she believed her father would take photos of her while coming out of the shower. Gracie then went on to recount an incident she alleged to have happened during the summer of 2018 when she was 11 years old. Gracie, Grant, and their father had traveled to North Carolina for a baseball event. Grant being a pitcher for the Grace Christian Academy baseball team known as the Lions. Gracie said that just her father and her had to return to Tennessee for a court hearing and stopped at a hotel in Asheville, North Carolina. And you just stop, think about that. They had to stop in Asheville, North Carolina because they were on their way to a hearing, y'all, about all this bullshit. You think Aaron Solomon would do shit? You think this is really what it's coming down to? When we got to the hotel, I was already scared about spending the night with him, And I remember a conversation about whether the room had 2 beds or only one. I wanted 2 beds because I was worried about what he would do to me, Gracie's affidavit read. He did not respond, but when we got into the room, there was only 1 bed. Gracie said that she slept on the side of the bed, but was soon awoken to find Aaron Solomon rubbing her feet. I was facing away from him, but he had one hand on my shoulder, and it felt like he was holding me still. The next thing I remember feeling was his penis on my lower back near my bottom. It was erect. I was scared and kept scooting to the edge of the bed until there was no room. I then felt his body moving slowly in a thrusting motion. Gracie alleged that the next day she felt a pain and itchiness in and around her groin area and compared it to what she felt in the past when she had been bathed by Aaron Solomon. Wynn Hicks, another defendant in Aaron Solomon's lawsuit and friend of the Solomon children, alleged in her affidavit that the counselor at Grace Christian Academy refused to help Gracie and that the 2 Solomon children expressed fear of their father routinely. Hicks went on to corroborate Gracie's alleged abuse, saying that Grant had told her everything. Smith, the 18-year-old Grace Christian Academy graduate who shared a video testimony on the Freedom for Gracie pages, was also included in the countersuit. In her affidavit, Smith alleged that Grant told her his father would hit him frequently and also that Gracie had told her about the alleged incident in North Carolina a few weeks after it happened. So, you got people that are 18 years old and a few of these young people. Where are they today? Why would they say what they were saying? Now, don't get me wrong, y'all. There are people out here in the world where this shit actually happens. But if you think about it, if this actually happened to Gracie, why wait a couple of weeks? I know some would say, well, KJ, it was so traumatic that she didn't want to say anything. Well, she sure as hell didn't have any problem expressing it in former affidavits. Why? Why would you wait all that long if it's that damn bad? Why wasn't it brought up in the court hearing that they were going to in Tennessee when they spent the night at the freaking hotel? It was never brought up because it never happened, y'all. These are my opinions. I'm all for, I am a champion for children that have been molested. I am all for, I have been there myself, y'all. I've had childhood trauma, but I also know that when this shit happens and it comes out and it's the real deal, it does not go down like this. The way that Angelia Solomon used these people, it's disgusting and it's wrong. So let's get to Grant's death. And if you listen to the podcast Good Grief, Good God show, where Aaron Solomon is the guest on it, and he's talking to this fella, and you read the article from the Tennessean 5 years after Grant's death of Aaron Solomon talking about his son, he was there with his son. The day that accident happened, he lived his life through his son. He wanted to see his son do well in baseball. He loved his son a lot. And when Grant died, he absolutely fell apart. And in an article with the Tennessean, he said all he wanted to do was get drunk and forget the pain that he was suffering. And we'll get to losing a child. And perhaps, maybe Angelia Solomon, instead of blaming her husband for all this shit, maybe she can come to terms with the fact that her son has been murdered. I hate it for her. I have empathy for her. But it's just the way it goes, y'all. Early morning on July 20th of 2020, Grant and his father planned to meet at the Ward Performance Institute baseball training facility in Gallatin, just outside of Nashville. According to Aaron Solomon, they had both pulled up next to each other separately in the facility's parking lot. Aaron Solomon noticed his son had gotten out of his truck to grab his baseball gear out of the bed. Aaron Solomon said that shortly after he looked down to check a work email, he saw Grant's truck rolling backwards. According to Aaron Solomon, he then exited his vehicle only to find the truck had rolled into a ditch, his son trapped underneath it. It was then when he called 911. Quote, my son's truck backed over him. It rolled over him and drug him into the ditch, and it's on top of him, Aaron Solomon said on the phone with the first responders. He's not alert. He's out and he's trapped. I got 3 guys here and he's trapped under the truck. Among the 3 Gallatin police officers dispatched to the scene was Curtis McKelvey, who wrote in his report that he was unable to locate any other witnesses to the crash. Furthermore, facility staff told the officer they did not have any cameras on the outside that would have captured the incident. Again, this hasn't aged well because there were workers that were a distance away, that were in uniform, that didn't know what they were seeing was something they needed to stay on scene and talk about. They've got witnesses to all of this now, okay? And I know some like, well, why wasn't they there? Why wasn't this? That, for the most part, they were saying that they didn't realize what was really going on. They didn't realize somebody had been trapped. And some of the witnesses said all they saw was police cars there and all that. So, again, this has not aged well. The owner of the facility, Tucker Ward, told the home pages that he arrived at the facility 30 minutes after the incident occurred, but declined to comment further based on the advice of his attorney. Ward did, however, call the incident a tragedy and remembered Grant as a really good kid. Grant's celebration of life was held not long after the Grace Chapel at the Grace Chapel Church, where Pastor Steve Berger recounted a moment he shared with Grant. Quote, you just never get a 9th grader making an appointment with you to talk about Jesus as a crusty old gray-haired preacher. But Grant did, and he sat in my office for well over an hour. He just wanted to know how he could draw closer to Christ. He stands out to me. Gracie's video testimony, as well as the Freedom for Gracie page, argued that Grant's meeting with Berger was not to discuss faith, but rather to seek counsel regarding the alleged abuse at the hands of Aaron Solomon. Due to the Solomons being entangled in ongoing litigation, Berger's office declined to comment on the matter. However, Grace Chapel Church did issue a statement that said they were made aware of the abuse allegations on April 30th of 2018. The statement further reads that a staff member at the church accompanied, quote, one of the parents, unquote, wonder which one that was, of Gracie's to a meeting at the Williamson County Sheriff's Office. Williamson County Sheriff Public Information Administrator Sharon Puckett, who was also a News 4 anchor in the 90s, said that records related to the meeting could not be disclosed due to Tennessee law regarding information on victims of child sexual abuse. Puckett did say, however, that the matter was investigated and subsequently closed. So, for all these people out here that want to say that Grant was murdered and that all this essay happened to Gracie and all this and that, I guess they just don't give a rat's ass about investigations and whether or not it had been thoroughly investigated. Grace Christian Academy Communications Director Christy Van Duren declined to comment on the allegations. Given the ongoing litigation, Judge Johnson's office relayed that she could not comment on it. Okay, there you go. That is a news organization's take on things. And you know what? There's a lot of freaking stuff being said in all this. And I've given you my opinion. Well, what about the United States District Court for the Middle District of Tennessee? Okay, what is their opinion? Because I got the court document right here. This is the most recent. Factual and procedural background. And you better listen up, because if you think, this, he could have been a pedophile. He could have killed his own son, even though he was there with his son to help him in his baseball. He went to every damn game his son was at. This matter arises from the fraught relationship between former spouses, plaintiff Aaron Solomon and defendant Angelia Solomon. In May of 2013, Mr. Solomon filed for divorce from Mrs. Solomon. Throughout the divorce, Ms. Solomon made numerous allegations that Mr. Solomon was abusive, physically, mentally, sexually to herself and to the party's minor children. The divorce court found Ms. Solomon's allegations of abuse lacked merit and awarded Mr. Solomon custody of the children. After the divorce, Mrs. Solomon filed lawsuits alleging abuse and neglect against Mr. Solomon in the juvenile courts for Coffee and Williamson counties. Both actions were subsequently dismissed. On February 19th of 2020, the Circuit Court for Williamson County imposed pre-filing restrictions on any civil action Ms. Solomon attempts to file against Mr. Solomon. On July 20th of 2020, the Solomon's 18-year-old son was tragically killed in a single-car accident. On October 9th of 2020, Ms. Solomon had her friend, defendant Melanie Hicks, file a petition in juvenile court for Williamson County on behalf of the Solomon's minor daughter, Gracie, alleging abuse and neglect against Mr. Solomon. The Williamson County Juvenile Court found defendant Hicks' petition was without merit. So when she was slapped, when Angelia Solomon was slapped with, "You can't keep filing this shit," the courts, what does she do? She gets her friend to file the shit, and they still dismiss it. After her attempts to improperly, this is a district court, y'all. After Angelia Solomon's attempts to improperly use the courts against Mr. Solomon failed, Mrs. Solomon took her case to social media for the purpose of extorting Mr. Solomon into giving up his child custody and raising money for herself. This is what they found, y'all. This is what the courts found. On May 12th of 2021, Mrs. Solomon created an Instagram account called Freedom for Gracie, and shortly thereafter, similar accounts sprang up on other social media platforms. Collectively, all of the Freedom for Gracie social media accounts, as referred to as the accounts. Now, the accounts have regularly posted false statements about Mr. Solomon, including that he tried to kill or otherwise physically abuse Mrs. Solomon prior to their divorce, that Mr. Solomon sexually abused Gracie Solomon, that Mr. Solomon physically and emotionally abused Grant and Gracie Solomon, that Mr. Solomon murdered Grant Solomon and used his influence to see that no investigation was done, that Mr. Solomon bought grave sites for Mrs. Solomon and Gracie without Mrs. Solomon's knowledge as part of some murder-suicide plan. Y'all, it never happened. That Mr. Solomon was banned from participating in activities sponsored by the Williamson County Sports and Recreation Department because he was abusive to his wife, children, and others. That's false as well, y'all. That Mr. Solomon stole money from Grace Christian Academy. False. That Mr. Solomon had filed multiple bankruptcies, that Mr. Solomon had swindled people, that Mr. Solomon was fired from Channel 4 because he had inappropriate content on his computer and phone. Y'all, it never happened. That Mr. Solomon was diagnosed as narcissistic, and it goes on and on and on and on. And so, like I said, 9 days after Gracie came out online, and you can find that, you can judge for yourself whether she's telling the truth or not. It breaks my heart, y'all. We're going to go into parental alienation the next live stream. We're going to go into the death of a child and what that can do to someone. Who absolutely wants to alienate their child from a parent? We're going to find out from my research and analysis, and with your help, all about it. This is background information. This is about as messy and awful as it gets. So it really comes down to Why would Angelia Solomon want to hire a hitman to murder Aaron Solomon? Does it make sense now? Does it make sense now that perhaps she felt like she just had no other way of trying to mess with the situation? And you'll find out in the recording if you'll listen to it. It's on the community wall, the preliminary hearing, the recording of her and the undercover TBI agent. Oh, she says the governor of the state of Tennessee, Governor Lee there, the district attorney, the state district attorney, all these are good old boys, all this stuff, all these conspiracy theories, y'all. None of it can be backed up. I mean, I would be right there. I would be right there if they actually had tangible evidence to say nail their ass to the wall. But you can say whatever the hell you want to say. Free speech, right? A mother lets her 14-year-old daughter talk this awful stuff. And we're going to talk about false memories as well. Because I don't believe none of it happened. I don't believe any of it did. But ultimately, this lawsuit that Aaron Solomon, 9 days after he's been told, I'm sure he probably watched it, somebody told him about it, that his daughter was accusing him of sexual molestation and stuff. Can you imagine what that would do to somebody? Could you imagine what it would feel like to lose a child and then someone tell you that you murdered that child and you loved that child and believed in that child and loved that child, was very active in trying to help them along in their baseball career and everything, done everything, sent them to a freaking Christian academy, done everything for them? Well, look what Lori Hooker Daybell did to Tylee. But ultimately, this lawsuit was dismissed because Aaron Solomon, the plaintiff, sued several defendants over social media posts. This is the Court of Appeals in Tennessee. And the unauthorized use of his and his child's name, image, and likeness. Think about that. He was suing because she was using Gracie's image and likeness and putting her out there, y'all. Saying this. Think about what Gracie's going to have to deal with the rest of her life. Think about that. And her mother didn't give a rat's ass. It's disgusting. Plaintiff requested both damages and injunctive relief. In response, Angelia Solomon's attorneys petitioned to dismiss under the Tennessee Public Participation Act. But Aaron Solomon then filed notice of a voluntary non-suit, which defendants opposed it. Angelia's attorney said, no, you can't file a notice of a voluntary non-suit. A voluntary non-suit is without prejudice in this case. In other words, if you look up those terms, a notice of voluntary non-suit, it was a strategic move by Aaron Solomon's attorneys in that he can bring this. There is no statute of limitations. More evidence can be gathered. He was able to get that. And so that is where we're at right now. So ultimately, I want to leave you with this in terms of judicial understanding of all the allegations that Angelia Solomon is as terrible and is how much you want to be there for real victims. These are my views. These are my opinions. Just remember this. Angelia Solomon was given pre-filing restrictions on civil actions against Aaron Solomon because she engaged in abusive litigation from filing new lawsuits without first getting special permission from the judge. The court can impose these restrictions after it is determined that a civil action is abusive. Angelia Solomon was being abusive in her filings on Aaron Solomon. She was out to get him in every way, destroy him in every known possible way that a person, alienate his own daughter from him, have everyone believed that he murdered his own beloved son, that he's a pedophile, that he's all these things. And when that didn't work, when she couldn't even get her friend to file something on behalf of her own daughter, when the judge saw right through it, what did she do? She sought out a hitman. And now her ass is, she's in the court system now. So, I hope y'all got something out of the background of Angelia Solomon. Leave your comments. I appreciate y'all letting me rip on this. We'll get back together the next time around, y'all. We're going into the concentration of parental alienation. And if you're interested, again, on the community wall, there's a webinar on there from professionals that will tell you the general nature of parent alienation. I'm sure you already know about it. But I want to tell y'all right now that I love you. I thank you for allowing me to move forward on this. It's been tough to go from where we've been to where we are going now. I love you all. Thanks again for everyone, just me, Cindy Arnold, others that have modded. Thank y'all for being here, and we'll get back together soon. Leave those comments. They're important. They're going to be read out in the next live stream. I need y'all's comments. It can't just be what I'm saying. So with that being said, y'all, I love you and keep on looking.